Welcome to the Shop Rags Podcast, brought to you by Berkshire Bike Board, where we aim to take you inside of the bike shop. On this week's episode, we invited on one of our favorite longtime local cyclists, one of our best customers, dare I say, Mr. Doug Neu. So, Doug, episode 7, long time overdue. You've been asking to get on here to talk about fat bikes. This week, it is snowing right now. It seemed like a good week. So, to start it off, when did you start fat biking?
I think I got a fat bike in 2016, so I should wind back a little. I'd seen pictures of them, like in California, etc. I remember seeing a fat bike out front of the GB shop and said to one of my friends, I saw this bike with really fat tires. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
True. And
like making fun of it, why would anyone have one of those?
Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you found the bike shop?
The first time I remember going into the bike shop is back when, I think it was before you guys owned it. You were in the Price Chopper Plaza, not across the street. Price Chopper Plaza, like where Bookloft used to be. And
we owned it then.
Did you?
Yeah.
It was 1998. I went in with my my Marin hardtail mountain bike and bought a pair of bike shorts from you because I was riding around the dirt roads in Monterey.
Well, if it was 1998, we did not own it. We purchased it in 1999, but we were still in the Price Chopper Plaza.
Okay.
We were both there in 1998, though.
And I remember at one point going in with my campy road bike, and everybody was like, ooh, campy.
Were you riding bikes in 1998?
Yeah, I had a Marin hardtail, and then I got a road bike in 2000.
See, Marin was cool in 1998, but now...
I actually wish I still had that bike because I'd probably put a front suspension on it and have like a hardtail 29er.
Clark, you know everything about the bike industry. When did fat biking start?
Dave Clark deserves a proper introduction. He is the co-owner of the bike shop.
You're on it, but it was probably late 90s.
Late 90s?
No. It was basically, we'd been going to Interbike, and there were many years of Interbike. There were no fat bikes. And then it was probably mid-2000s, probably late 2000s, where we started to see...
the first fat bike was two rims laced together on one hub with two wheels on it.
Two regular, like 26-inch rims.
26-inch rims with 26-inch, like 2.2 tires on it.
But like everything in our industry, I had the exact same thought. I'm like, oh my God, what's next? Look at that.
The I did a bike is what started the fat bike.
Yeah.
I thought it came from beaches.
I did a bike is the race across like Alaska or something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it started with snow. Snow is what drove the...
And then it went to beach.
Well, that was like the natural progression, because you're not riding on a beach. There's no real demand for someone to ride their bike on the beach. You can generally, if you live in a beach area, you can ride off the beach. But if you live in Alaska, you're riding on the snow.
Yeah.
So... But yeah, Dave and I had that same experience where we were in Vegas and we were like looking at these things, like, oh my God, that is so goofy. And it was probably 3 or 4 years of seeing them at Interbike and starting to, like there was now probably 4 or 5 brands. And like, I'm like, I'm going to go ride one of these things. I'm pretty sure it was a Borealis, and I got on it and my mind was like, poof. I'm like,
it felt like you were a kid.
Well, it wasn't so much that I felt like a kid. Like you look at it and like, that thing is going to be so slow. It's going to roll it's going to be so hard to pedal because of the big fat tires. But it blew every expectation. I got on it and it pedaled great. It was fast. It rolled awesome. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Like it bested every preconception that I had of it. And I wrote, I'm like, this is actually kind of cool.
And you liked it?
Well, we're riding in the desert. It wasn't so much that I'm like, I want to go get one for riding in the desert, but I'm like, I could see the value of this being for the Northeast, riding in the snow, because we like to ride year round in the winter, and we're limited on where we can, and it turned on the light bulb that it's not what it looked like.
Yeah.
So you start seeing them 2010, 2015. That looks kind of fun.
Yeah, so I've been riding in Boston, doing a lot of road riding. Started riding through the winter to keep in shape. You guys probably know, newsflash, I don't ride inside. I don't Zwift. I don't own a kicker. I don't own any of that stuff.
Still?
I've never ridden on Zwift, but it's probably been 20 years since I rode.
Tell everybody how many miles you normally ride in a year, because that's when it starts to get crazy.
Last year I rode 6,300.
And how many of those were metric centuries?
I rode 52 metric centuries
for the last
3 years.
That's impressive.
And I've already ridden 2 this year.
2.
So I come to this from road biking, and I wanted to extend my season.
Yeah.
right? Love being outside, love being in the woods, love being on a bike. And I'm like, okay, so I talked to these guys. I was going to buy a Rocky Mountain No front fork.
Okay.
And actually, there was a deal the summer of 2016. You guys had one in my size. I was going to get it. And I think it was Dave Funk who said, you should think about getting a front fork on it. And that's what I ended up getting.
So you got it's this one, right? The first one, Rocky Mountain Blizzard. We'll get it into the details of the bike a little later on, but so that's when you get into it and you start riding here in the Berkshires?
Here in the Berkshires and in Boston. I rode one season without studs. I don't recommend that.
We're going to get to that.
We're going to get to that, but it's a little sketchy. And my original plan was to ride it in the winter and then use it as a summer mountain bike. So I already had a mountain bike.
Okay.
I had a giant Anthem 29er with a triple, which was a little embarrassing.
I remember that bike too.
Do you remember? Yeah.
Blue and gray,
It was sort of like black and gray.
Black and gray. Bossy had one of those, remember?
Yeah. I bought that in 2012. Then I messed up my shoulder, so I didn't use it for a couple of years. When I tried it, I had no idea what I was doing mountain biking and didn't enjoy it.
Like Steffen.
I've seen Steffen go off like a 20-foot boulder down in Norbrook, so which I won't do. So I got a fat bike, started doing that in the winter. It actually got me into mountain biking. So most people, I think, have mountain bike and then start fat biking. But I came the reverse direction and now I currently own 2 mountain bikes. If my wife is watching this,
let's go through the bikes in the quiver real quick because you have a pretty good selection. Why don't you run through?
Well, hold on. Do you guys know how many bikes I have?
I would guess 9.
Steffen?
11.
Clark?
I'm going to go right in the middle and say 10.
Clark wins.
10.
I have 10.
Oh,
Run us through them.
Okay.
Because I think. Can I try real quick?
Yeah, go.
All right. Blizzard.
Yep.
Your Rocky Mountain. It's not a Slayer, but full suspension mountain bike.
Yep. Pipeline.
Your red Colnago.
Yep.
Your orange
C60.
Yep. Your orange Roubaix.
Yep. Love that bike, by the way.
He's got a Scott dual suspension mountain bike. There's
Scott,
5.
That's 5.
You got a GT.
Yep.
That's his gravel bike.
6.
Yep.
I think that's
There's another gravel bike.
Oh, do you have a Diverge?
Yeah.
You have a
Did I not
Diverge?
say
And
Diverge?
then I bought the Diverge
Shit,
here.
Roubaix and from
Okay.
me, like
Yes.
going back and forth for a while. Okay,
Yes. That's a story
7.
in and of itself. Yeah.
You've got a commuter bike in Boston, like
I
a town
do.
bike.
I have a 2005 Bianchi Castro Valley that weighs 2 tons.
We got to get you back on the podcast to go through all the bikes.
But no one will ever steal it because it's heavy.
Yeah.
So we're
and
at
I
8.
paid-
There's 2 left.
So Steffen may remember I have an old Colnago.
Steel Colnago.
I have a steel Colnago Master Extralight that I had before my current Colnago, but it's got rim brakes. Don't like rim brakes.
Who does? Besides
And then
Fred Walton.
I have...
He was on the podcast last week.
Yes, I know.
Oh my God, these brakes! Oh,
Every time I get on a bike that has rim brakes, I'm like, why doesn't this bike have brakes at all?
Doesn't stop.
I have a steel Bianchi Eros, which is like...
That's campy.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of Bianchis.
Actually, I had a Bianchi carbon fiber bike that I traded in when I bought my Roubaix.
This is from a shop out in Boston that you like?
I bought the Bianchis when I lived in New Jersey.
Got it. Okay, quite the quiver.
So 10, but I have them spread between 2 houses.
Probably more than Steffen and Dave combined, and they own a bike shop.
I've
few bike shops.
paired way down. I paired way down last year.
I'm actually thinking of getting rid of the old Colnago and buying a hardtail 29er.
Hardtail 29ers are good.
Yeah,
bike to
and
have.
then of course I'm going to want a full suspension 29er, but
Because your Rocky's a 27.5.
Yes, both my mountain bikes are 27.5. We'll get back into that.
Okay, so that's the details. How'd you find us? How'd you get into fat biking? The next question is, you're doing most of your fat biking in the Berkshires, which is a great place to do it. We can touch on that quickly, but I think really we want to hear about the trip to Kingdom that you just took.
Yeah, so I was in Kingdom Trails for a fat bike camp with Idle Cycling up in East.
Oh, it was like a.
It was like it was an organized trip. So a woman I know from Boston who's a coach, bike fitter, used to be a mountain bike racer. She hooked up with another woman named Georgia Gould, who's an ex-pro mountain biker, actually finished in third place in the mountain bike in the London Olympics.
I remember that.
So, and I got a couple stories about that. They're both like terrific people, really good cyclists.
And when was this?
First weekend of February.
So
that
like
insanely cold weekend. Yeah.
Insanely cold. So you're at Kingdom. You're with how many how many guests were there?
3.
Oh, it was just 3 of you.
Yeah, they all quit when they saw the forecast.
Did everybody cancel?
No, we had 2 people. So it's designed as a pretty small group.
I see.
Right? So it's max of 8 people. So we had 2 people who got COVID right before.
They said they got COVID, but really they were.
Yeah, really it was like, -40, no thanks. So a friend of mine from Boston and then a woman from Wolfboro, New Hampshire who had been to the camp last year. So, they rented a house right in East Berk, which is a really cool area.
Sure.
Breweries and stuff like that.
Bunch of bike shops.
Yeah. And we were right on the trails. So they had, Sarah had just had some surgery, so they actually had another guy there, Tom Seymour, who was one of the other, went out riding with us. The funny thing is Tom Seymour is married to one of my wife's oldest friends, and he was at my wedding, and I hadn't seen him since my wedding in 2002, and he just happened to be there. Great guy. So the 5 of us hit the trails, and there are 200 miles of
There's a lot
trails
of
at Kingdom Trails.
And is it groomed?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they groom it in the winter. I mean, it was amazing.
Pristine.
Yeah, hard. Because it was really cold, and you're trying to get a fat bike up these little, little punchy hills. So you're really, really working hard.
But when it's groomed, so I'm not really that into fat biking personally. I think everybody knows that. I will say, mostly because my general thought is it's going to be slower, it's not going to be that fun. And then I go out on a fat bike twice a year, and it's generally the fastest mountain biking I do every year, because in New England, we have all these rocks and roots, and if there actually is some snow cover and it's been matted down, it's the smoothest single track.
I saw almost no rocks and roots up there.
Yeah.
Actually, so, you'll see I'm running a front fork, right? I got a little squish there, right?
Yeah.
Almost everybody else had no front suspension, which actually I would have been better off without one. You can lock it out, but if you're doing that type of riding, you don't need front suspension at all. And it was fast. There was one point when we're going down, and I'm just not sure I'm going to make this. But,
yeah. And
Georgia was riding right behind me. She's like, "Oh, you go ahead. I'm going to check out your form." I'm like, no pressure there, Olympic mountain biker riding right behind you, telling you, what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. It was really cool because they were also giving us tips on riding style and stuff like that. So.
Are they cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
So they had they hired a chef to come stay at the Airbnb for the weekend and make all our meals. And it was amazing.
How many miles do you think you end up rode that weekend?
We rode in 3 days, 27 miles.
27 miles. So you're riding 10 miles a day. It's slow pace. You're out there for a while because you can't sweat, obviously, because it's
sweat.
But when it's negative 40, you really got to try to avoid that.
So I normally think most conditions, if you have the right 3 layers, that's all you need, and we can get back to.
We're going to get to that in a second.
But I overdressed. The first day was negative 41. I put on a couple extra layers, and I was too hot. And then I got all sweaty, and so then we took one loop, and then we went out and did another one, and I took some clothes off. So you gotta clothing is really, really important, but it's really important to be warm enough, but not too warm.
Yeah.
Because it will end up just sweating. Because it is a ton of work, even though you may go 6 miles.
Yeah.
Right. If you're out fat biking for 2 hours and you're going up and down, you are gonna work really, really hard.
I couldn't imagine, like, some people do those, like, overland fat biking trips in the winter, and it's like, how the hell do you dress for something like that? Because they're out there for, like, a week riding through, like we talked about before, like Iditarod or some shit. It's freezing cold. They're sleeping outside. You can't sweat, but you have to move.
And you have to carry all your stuff.
And you have to carry all your stuff. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that I mean, I'll carry like a backpack with extra vest or something. But
okay, so that was a good trip. Would you go back?
Oh, I'm going back next year.
You're going back.
I've been two years in a row. 2 years ago, there was too much snow. We ended up riding on dirt roads, which it was fun. It was hard, but it wasn't like this was just a blast.
Perfect.
Great food, great riding, great part of the just new place. I'd never been there until.
Oh, you never been to Kingdom?
No, I got to get up there like in the summer.
Yeah.
You got to go in the summer.
Yeah,
it's primo.
I just love to give an explanatory piece on snow conditions. Like, snow conditions are so vital to make fat biking, fun. You can, like you said, if there's too much snow, fat biking is no fun. And people have this perception. It's the same thing with snowshoeing. It's like, I'm going to go out and go snowshoeing, and I'm going to float on top of the snow with my snowshoes. Doesn't work that way. Same thing with a fat bike. Yes, you've got 5-inch tires, but if there's too much snow, you can't go. And it's not that it all depends on your base. If your base is packed down, it's going to be, really fast. But it sounds like if you're only doing, 27 miles in 3 days, it probably wasn't super packed down. It's because the further north, right, it doesn't get above freezing. Like, our conditions will turn bulletproof. And so, like, your experience of going out and being the fastest conditions, that's because we get, it's 40 degrees during the day, then it's down to 26 at night, and
Or
that turns
rains.
hard as, literally it's like, it's hard as rock. So you feel like you're on pavement. But because the Northeast Kingdom, it doesn't really get above freezing, so they'll always be. You're always digging in. You're always sinking in a little bit. So it's almost like riding that mud feeling where, and it could totally change. They have conditions that sometimes it's bulletproof, and there's sometimes conditions there's too much snow. Right?
Ours was a little variable. Like the third day, I think we did almost half the miles because the first day was a little shorter because it was cold. Our second day was really cold, so we ended up riding in the afternoon, and then the third day was when we were just ripping down hills, But I had the same misperception that you have a fat bike, you can ride in any kind of snow. No. Actually, I think there's a point at which I'll just go snowshoeing.
Right. There's too much snow.
Yeah.
You're not. It's just no fun. You're barely keeping the wheels turning, and you need somebody to pack down the track in front of you.
So you're looking for, if you're riding after a snowstorm, you want to wait for the snowshoers and the walkers to go out and pack it down for you, or you're going to go to groom trails.
Which we have here in Berkshire County.
Groom trails in Berkshire County.
We have our little local club. We bought a groomer, which is basically, for those that have no idea what it looks like, it literally looks like a lawnmower that has a track like a snowmobile, and you stand behind it, or you actually stand in a sled behind it, and you steer it just by pushing it. But it's literally just a track, and then the sled that you're standing in almost like turns it into a groomer, where it's got tracks. Just so you see a freshly groomed trail for skiing, it's basically that's the snow groomer's got. Yeah, it's basically creating corduroy by a sled that you're standing in. So it's the track is breaking the snow, packing it all down because the machine weighs maybe 120 pounds, and then you're standing on it, and whatever you weigh is also packing it down. And then, but the same thing, you still don't want to go out directly after that because you want that to firm up. You want it to compact and set. And so, being able to go out to go fat biking, sometimes you got to be patient. The conditions got to be right, and sometimes the conditions just are not right.
Even grooming, you want to groom when it's a little bit warmer, so the snow packs.
Right, because if it's super cold, you're not getting that compaction. If there's more moisture in the air, it will compact better.
Shout out
Science by Steffen.
Shout out to Matty G in the Berkshire Mountain Bike Training Series.
Yeah, by the way, do you want to mention? Have you mentioned where this happens?
For us, it's the Pittsfield State Forest.
Yeah, no, I know, but you hadn't mentioned that.
Pittsfield State Forest. There's no snow up there right now, so there's probably some ice in places, but normally we call it the Snoopy Loop. It starts at either on Churchill Street or
Lulu
Brook parking lot. You can leave, and there's a nice little loop that goes through there.
Those are like the family trails.
The family trails.
Also known as the family trails.
Yeah, there's probably like a 6 or 7 mile loop, and they get creative sometimes and give us some loops in between, and it's a lot of fun. Our season this year wasn't great. They only probably got out there 4 or 5 times because the snow was so.
I have to confess, I have not been up there on my fat bike. Just
Ever? It's good up there.
I was there a couple years ago. Yeah, the problem for me is it's an hour each way. And to go to Norbrook is half the time.
I see. I'll say probably, well, I've got a lot of the best bike rides ever, but one of the best bike rides I ever took, I think the both of you were there. We started from Sue's house in Pittsfield. Pitch black, we had gotten a foot of snow previously, and then there was 2 inches of fresh on top of it. We rode a lot of double track to the top of Jiminy Peak, like Powder Mountain Road.
So we were riding a lot of snowmobile trails, and that's like a lot of times when before we had groomers and before, or if we have too much snow, our local snowmobile clubs groom through.
Yeah, that was groomed, and it was, this is the cool part about fat biking is a lot of times it's at night in the dark. So there was like probably 20 of us. It's pitch black, but everybody has a light. So, you're riding these like windy single tracks and you just see all your buddies. Like, I'm usually in the front. So I look back and you can see this long line.
Nice humble brag
long
there.
Long line of people behind me. Just kidding, but not really. And we get to the top and then we ride After School Special, which is one of my favorite bike trails in the summertime.
You took a photo at the top of Jiminy Peak.
Yeah, it was awesome. It's probably on our website. Yeah. It was awesome. And the downhill, Steffen and I are obviously very competitive with one another. And I had studs in the bike. It was probably Clarky's bike or something. I don't know. I never had a fat bike. But there was just enough snow on top where we were flying, and it was like drifting into every turn. And then the studs would catch into the ice below. And the thing is, we'll talk about clothes later, but I'm a snow pants guy on a fat bike, snow pants and boots guy on a fat bike because I don't want to be cold. And, you crash off the side of the trail, but you just fall into snow, and it doesn't really matter. It was awesome. That was the only time.
You picked a good one because sometimes they're amazing, and then sometimes you're like, there's too much snow, and you're out there, and you're just like, it's a slog, and you go 6 miles, and you're like, that was brutal.
Yeah,
that was not fun.
That was an epic. We probably did 10 miles that time, but we also had the conditions, the snow were
perfect.
Packed where you could ride almost anywhere in the woods.
Yeah,
you didn't need it groomed at all. Those are the best conditions, and I'm sure Doug will attest. Is when you get the perfect storm when you get heavy wet snow and then it rains on top of it and it freezes so hot solid.
You do spend a lot of time paying attention to weather conditions and also varying where you're going to ride. Sometimes you'll see if there's too much snow here, people go to Robinson State Park in Agawam, or maybe you go a little further south to Norbrook in Connecticut. I used to ride Beartown a lot, and Beartown is so hit or miss. The joke is that Beartown is only dry 2 days a year.
I see.
And I've been there and just tried to do the pond loop, and sometimes it's just so bad I ride back there, right?
Bring that microphone a little closer.
But sometimes Beartown can be good, but it's a pretty small percentage.
Hit or miss, yeah.
I would go to the places where the trails are getting used, and you can sort of put together loops with different things that you find fun. Maybe you go on a trail, one way and then reverse it, and it feels like a completely different trail. That's what I really like about Norbrook is there's a lot down there that I think you can.
Yeah, and we should add that, although it's nice to go fat biking when there are perfect snow conditions, you can still ride your fat bike, especially on, a muddy day or even just a regular day out in the woods, and it still can be pretty fun and pretty fast. In New England, when it's rocky and rooty, having a big old tire to help you go over stuff can sometimes be just as good as a full suspension mountain bike.
Well, the thing is a lot of times what I find at Norbrook in particular is you go down there and you get all the conditions. It's not, we don't have enough snow that they've had to groom.
Yeah.
But you go down there and you have dirt, right? You have a little mud, you have some snow, and you have some ice. And you don't know when you're going to see any of that. On the back side of some of those trails, Steve Quinn, you go down that, and when you get down to the bottom where it's really shady, you're more likely to see ice there. And that's when it's okay, you could be on a regular mountain bike, and then you're going to go across a sheet of ice.
And go down.
I'd rather be on a fat bike with studded tires.
And that's why we're proponents, and like what you're mentioning, why we sell or predominantly sell fat bikes with forks on it, because it just makes the bike so much more versatile. Because yes, there's times where you're riding buttery smooth, trails where you don't really need the fork, but then, like you say, you go over the backside of something or it's a little bit warmer, and next thing you know, there's rocks, roots, and it just makes the bike more versatile. So,
I just have a friend in Boston who just got a new fat bike, and she reached out to me for advice. She's like, "What should I get?" And I said, big decision is, do you get a front fork? And she ended up getting one, and I find when I'm riding at Norbrook, like I'm turning it on and off all the time. Like there's very little time that I'm not using it at all. And I have some friends, like Ned has a fat bike.
Rigid.
And yeah, it's rigid. And, we're going over routes, and he refers to his eyeballs going up, through his head.
Let's go to the this or that section, the text section. So I got to give credit to Doug on this one. He had a good idea for this week's podcast, as far as when you go to buy a fat bike, there's a lot of fundamental decisions you have to kind of make that will kind of set you on the path that you're going to go on for fat biking, whether it's tubes or tubeless, studs or no studs, fork or no fork, dropper or no dropper, dropper or rigid. So everyone's going to have some different opinions. I know I'll have some strong opinions, even though I don't ride fat bikes, because that's who I am. So let's get into that. First one, probably an easy one. I'll let you start, Doug. You're going to go to buy a fat bike. You're trying to figure out what you want. Do you get studded tires or studless tires?
Studded, completely.
All the time?
Yeah. So as I said, I have 2 mountain bikes. So I've gotten into mountain biking sort of through fat biking. So I'm not using this during the summer.
Yeah.
I just have my studded tires, leave it on. It's basically just a winter bike.
And you're riding, what do you got, 45 North tires with the pre-set up studs. So they're just a little carbide.
Yep.
Clarky, what do you got?
I have a V tire now with a similar setup. I don't stud my own tires. I buy pre-made.
Steffen, you have something a little different.
no, I'm running 27.5, which is one of those questions. But I'm running 45 North Wrathchild, which is, I'd argue, is the best studded tire out there you can buy.
I can't see it through the dirt, but I think that's what I
that's
have.
about
45 North.
45 Norths
are
better than my tires.
And the crazy thing is that, those tires, they're expensive, but it's worth it. You never really know when you're going to need studs, but it could be that you're flying down a trail and, you get to an icy part and it's like, that's when you need studs.
Well, generally, you don't know when you're getting into an icy part because, you're cruising down the trail. Maybe it snowed a little bit, and it looks like there's snow on the ground, but really it's covering a puddle that's solid. And we've got lots of stories of our customers riding in the wintertime, and they're cruising along, don't even realize it, and they hit what looked like solid ground, but it's not, and do your hip is.
It happens fast.
It happens really.
You don't have time to react.
I did it for one winter, and I would not.
Yeah.
I would not.
In the completely other direction, there's also, we used to do an ice crit here, a crit on the ice, which was awesome. And for that, we studded our own tires with screws.
I was there for the first one.
Yeah, I had a gravel bike, and we set it up tubeless and then just screwed, cold cutters, is it, Clarky?
Cold cutters.
Yeah, we screwed cold cutters right into the knob. So you had these not screwed out, they were screwed in, so it would just be the head of the bolt.
Big hex head.
On the outside of the tire. And you could, my setup was always because I'm not that great at that kind of thing, but Jeremy Manzolini, another local, big into fat bikes, his was so dialed that you could ride at full speed on a lake and
lay it over
and drag the handlebars on the lake and not put a foot down. It was insane.
So I raced the first year.
Did you race the first
year?
year?
Yeah, I did race the first year.
You did race
on this
You crashed, though.
I crashed in the practice lap, and I bruised my tailbone, and it was bruised for like 6 months.
I remember
and
this.
I was going somewhere with my family, getting on a plane, and it was really uncomfortable to sit on a plane. And I said something to my wife, and she's like, "I don't want to hear about it."
I don't know,
but
I don't hear you complain.
I tried Jeremy's bike.
Insane.
After he won, and it was ridiculous.
Oh, because you had those tires.
Yeah, I didn't do he basically had like screwdrivers sticking out.
200. He had 200 cold cutters in each tire.
Yeah.
The only problem with that, he made them tubeless. He sealed the hole inside. But if you're out trail riding like me and Doug do. It's great if you're cruising around the
if
lake. If you're riding the trail and you're 4 miles out and you get a flat tire, there's no fixing that in the woods.
They're so grippy that the woods will rip them out of your tires and you will get a flat.
Jeremy didn't have that problem much, but a lot of people did have that problem. They rip them out and you have to plug the tire. Odin was bringing cold cutters with him in his pocket, so when he pulled one out, he put it back in to seal up the hole.
Man, we were all doing that for that one season, or maybe it was 2 seasons. Mine was always flat. Like I had to bring a bottle of Stans with me pretty much on a bike ride to try and keep it plugged. But
that's why manufacturer studded tires are the best. You can run tubeless.
They are. One thing I found is you want to keep the bike really upright, right? Because once you start to slide, you get on ice. Even with studs, you sort of get off the studs, and just because of gravity, you can still go like that. So you don't want to lean your bike too much. You want to be sort of very upright.
Which is
maybe not Steffen.
Regular bike riding. 30-second take. Tubes versus tubeless. Doug.
Tubeless.
All the time.
Lower pressure. Haven't had many issues. My favorite bike shop sets it up for me.
There we go.
Tubeless. If you got the right rims and right tires, tubeless is by far the best on every.
Are you running Rothschilds too?
No, I'm running V-rubber, which aren't even great tires to run tubeless, but I have not had any problems with them.
Those are the ones that blow off the rim a lot of the time.
Those are the ones that blow off the rim all the time.
They have like a bad batch or something.
Yeah.
Those are the original tires I had before I was running.
They must have had contracts with all the manufacturers.
Tubeless. Yeah, that's what came. Well, actually, no. I don't know what came on because it wasn't set up studded.
No, it was a V-rubber tire. That was a bulldozer that came on that bike stock.
Okay.
Bulldozer,
I had that same bike. I had that same bike.
Steffen?
If you've got a pre-studded tire, there's no reason to run a tube. It's just you're going to chance to get a flat.
Don't a lot of people run tubes on fat bikes?
Yeah.
I used to.
You want to run low pressures on fat bikes, and the ability to get low pressures, you need to run tubeless.
Bingo.
Tubeless, Rothschilds, but I'm running 27 by 3.0, which is arguably whether or not it's a fat or not.
It's not a fat. You got to be.
What I'm running.
Fat is 4.0 and above.
No, fat 3.5.
Okay, fine.
That's what they.
You didn't meet either test, even your own.
3.5.
Well, there's a lot of trail systems like Kingdom Trails that they will not allow you to ride on their trail system with a tire smaller than a 3.5.
Because you're going to rut it up.
Right, because if your tire's too small, I'll argue this all day long. If the conditions are right, you can run a 1.9, right? And a lot of times our conditions where we are, like we already had this conversation, if it's basically rock hard, you can run a 1.9 and you're going to be fine. Granted, it's not ideal. Like my 3.0 has worked fine. I've gone out with the fat bikers and I've had some amazing rides, and I've gone out with the fat bikers where we've all had a terrible time because we're breaking through, even the 5.0ers.
Well, let's say something that you do have something on your bike that all these fat bikers don't have on their bike.
I have
which
a
is
motor,
a motor,
which makes my life.
One company, I think.
Also not a fat bike.
One company making an electric fat bike, I think it's a Norco. That thing would be so fun to ride. Like, I'm not going to spend money on one, but it would be fun.
I did run 4.0s last year, and when I was up at Kingdom Trails, because there were supply chain issues, so I was having trouble getting tires when I first got these new rims, and so I ran 4.0s. They were too small for me. So I went back. 4.6. I went back to 4.6. I went to the 45 North pre-studded, and I absolutely love them. They're great.
Tire width?
I'm running 4.8s. I think me and Doug being bigger guys, I think that's another reason why I don't run 27.5. I'm still running 26. It's another question, I know, but 26 you can run a 4.8, and not that you need that little bit of flotation only 10 or 15% of the time, but when you need it, you have it.
4.6, 4.8, 3.0.
Which is not a fat bike.
Not a fat bike.
Well, that's the bike I had. I had a fully rigid carbon Borealis that I was running 4.0s that was less than 25 pounds. Bike was insane.
So actually, this I don't want to skip ahead in your list, but
let's skip ahead on the list.
Carbon fat bike, worth it or not?
Okay, let's do frame material. Aluminum or carbon? I guess Ned's probably got a steel one, right? His Originate?
No, it's aluminum.
Is it aluminum?
It's aluminum.
Let's go frame material. You go first, Doug.
I'm aluminum, which is my only aluminum bike. I really kick the shit out of my bike in the winter. Like, just riding in variable conditions, you got in the back of your car, getting slush on it.
Yeah.
I get it overhauled before every winter. Try and wash it during the winter. That's a little harder.
True.
So I just feel like you're really, really, putting a lot of wear and tear on it, and I wouldn't want to have a $10,000 fat bike that I was just kicking the shit out of every winter. This one, so I've had this for 6+ years, and I'm still on the original bike, even though I've upgraded the hubs.
Clarky, what are you running?
Well, I started with my original bike was the same as this bike. Actually, the one Doug talked about with the rigid fork, I bought the same bike.
You probably bought the one that I didn't buy.
The blue one, yeah.
Probably.
Or bought, sorry.
Yeah, I bought it.
Somebody paid for it.
You got to make sure when you buy a fat bike, one, it's through axle front and rear. You want a 12 by 197 rear, and you want a 15 by 150 up front, so you can get wheels in.
I see. That's like the standard.
That's the standard that you want to go for, through axle and wheels. So I started with a Rocky Mountain Blizzard. I put a Manitou, I can't even think of the name of the fork.
That's the one that everybody's running. I know what you're talking
The
about.
Manitou long travel, 140 mils of travel. I put it on that bike. I loved it, but last year I built up a Borealis. I bought a Crestone frame and I put all my parts, carbon, over there. And the biggest shot of the carbon is that it's lighter weight.
Way lighter,
It's took a good pound off my bike.
Arguably, does it matter that much fat biking? Like, not really. And you do get a lot of price savings when you go aluminum. I do see the advantage of, like, what was the bike that you used to have?
I had a Borealis.
Crestone.
It was before the Crestone, whatever. What was the model before the Crestone?
Echo?
Yeah, that's
Yampa.
right.
Colorado.
No, Yampa. I had a Yampa. Yampa.
Great
Yeah.
river. Ever been there?
No.
Steamboat? You've been.
No.
You ever been to Steamboat?
Never.
Oh, my God. All right, next question. Did we do shock versus no shock? We'll call
We
it
did not. Rigid
front
versus-
suspension or no suspension. Doug, to you.
Front suspension all the way, because you're turning it on and off all the time. Like I go down to Norbrook, you're using it, you're not. You're gonna have a lot more fun with and be able to do a lot more stuff and not be like bouncing all over the place down your elbows and the back of your head. So
Clarky?
I say fork. I started without a fork, and you really don't need a fork, but really you don't need anything. But it definitely, we ride some wheel trails that get like whooped, and having the fork. And I always say I'm going to ride mine in the summer. I usually ride it once, and then last year I never even took the studded tires off, so I didn't ride it at all.
Yeah. In the summer, you definitely would need a fork.
You don't need anything.
He's got a bike downstairs
you want a fork.
He's got a bike downstairs in the barn. And I'm like, this thing looks pretty fun. It's a Jamis or something, 29er, rigid. It weighs about 10 pounds. I'm like,
Single
I could
speed?
really freaking do some damage on this thing.
It was my first 29. That's a whole nother story.
That bike looks
You bend the
sick.
wheel and fork in half on that thing.
I think it's
I
a
bent
single
the
speed,
forks.
too.
Yeah, single speed. I bent the forks 3 times. This you just bent.
Okay, what do
not
you ride?
recommended,
Aluminum or
by the
carbon?
way.
Are you
Not
ready?
recommended. Bend your own fork
He's
back.
riding a carbon electric bike.
Carbon all the way. But we were talking about forks now.
You're not riding,
forks.
really.
Forks. Well, I didn't ride it all this winter. This winter there was no fat biking.
Yeah, my name's
That's not
Steffen.
true.
I got a
No,
Kashima
it's not.
coated Fox 38 freaking.
Let's go back to suspension.
You're easy.
On our latitude of where we are, it makes more sense to run a fork just for the fact that we have varied terrain. It could be, you could go out and there's still rocks and roots. If you're way further north where it's going to be the snow covers everything, it literally turns into a bike path. You don't need a fork. But I think for us, the fork is nice. The tires do make a big difference in the suspension. But the thing with tires is your suspension is it's uncontrolled rebound. It's uncontrolled compression.
So
Whereas
it's bouncy.
What?
yeah, it's
The
bouncy.
tire. Yeah.
Okay, so side question: full suspension fat bike? Yes or no?
I wouldn't run one.
I think they're super cool. There is a couple companies that make them that are kind of cool, and one of our customers bought one directly from one of these direct-to-consumer companies, Lemaire.
I don't see the point. I think you're getting the suspension you need from.
And to me, I mean, we're going to get to this when we talk about droppers in a second here, but it's like, I feel like when it's super cold out, all this stuff starts to work less. Like your hydraulic brakes, your dropper. We know we've had problems with a lot of those, reverb dropper posts in the cold.
Yeah, reverb doesn't work. in the
Rock Shock, their front fork, they say it's not designed to go, below 32 degrees,
Did
right?
you have any problems at -40 with yours?
Negative 41, not with my front suspension, but my dropper post, which, in fairness, probably need to be serviced anyways.
Stopped working.
It stopped working, and like you could pull it up, but then it like bounced at the top.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is it
was really annoying.
It'll stop working engaged, so it'll go down, but it won't come back up.
What's that?
I bet you have a cold weather kit in that fork. Since
Probably.
if you've been rebuilding it every year,
I have not been rebuilding it every year.
RockShox changed their O-rings. They were originally having issues, and for a while, Borealis was selling a kit that had higher or lower temp O-rings in there that would allow it not to collapse. So what would happen with those forks is the negative air chamber would overpower the positive air chamber, and it would all
Your fork would suck down
and you start hitting your pedals
on the ground.
and you'd have to take out the bottom adjuster and stick a wrench up there and let all the air out and come back up.
2 more questions. Here's the first one. Dropper post or rigid seat post? I see you have a rigid seat post zip tied to your handlebars, which tells a lot.
I took that away. That was because of when I had to get my dropper fixed. So I have to tell you, I'd never run a dropper post before, and I borrowed when I was looking for a new mountain bike. So I was fat biking, decided I wanted to get a mountain bike, a real mountain bike, wanted to replace my Giant.
Yeah.
And I demoed an Intense with a dropper post, and I didn't understand the dropper post.
Yeah.
I remember we chatted about it, and you're like, it seems dumb, but when you start using it, you'll really, really become a fan. It took me a little while, and then I was like, wow. So I ended up putting a dropper on my Anthem.
With a triple up front.
With a triple.
So you had 2 over here on the left hand.
Yeah, it was.
Oh yeah.
Can't show up too many group rides with your triple mount.
Cable, the handlebars start to get cluttered.
So, and then ended up putting one on this. And I think you were the one who said you'd rather have a dropper than a rear suspension. And
Ditto.
Particularly for if you're big, if you're tall, you want to get that weight down, right? You want to get your center of gravity down, and you find yourself, and I hate to tell Steffen he's right, but he was right, that you find yourself using it a lot. To make micro adjustments. Not even, there are times when you're getting all the way down, you're just trying to get your center of gravity down. But you can really move it up and down all you want. So big fan of
the dropper.
And also getting on and off a fat bike. Sometimes you need the dropper just to be able to get on and off in a particular.
Your snow pants on.
Yeah.
Dropper for sure. The biggest thing on a fat bike is a lot of times you're going up this hill so slow that it's hard to balance. So having your center of gravity 2 or 3 inches lower and just be able to balance with your knees further out makes a big difference on a fat bike. Being able to clear, because literally you're going so slow on a fat bike that you're in your easiest gear and your pedals are moving this fast and you're barely moving.
You got a reverb on your bike?
It's not a fat bike.
It's an Everb.
It's friggin' Steffen accessories route. It's a full suspension electric with a fat bike.
What, do you own a bike shop?
With a electric dropper post, but we won't go too far down that road.
Yeah, dropper post is one of I've gotten to the point where I should stop saying, well, that's stupid, I don't understand it, because usually when I do, like with fat bikes, I end up 5 years later, I'm like all in.
We're from New England. We're slow to change and a little more stubborn than they are out in the West Coast.
We also need to talk about clips or not.
Pedals. There's a lot of good ones here. That's another good one. Let's do clips or not clips, because I got some opinions there.
Clips.
Really?
Yeah. I clip in. I got shoes. I bought the right shoes. I got 3 pairs of winter shoes to wear.
But
depending on the weather.
if you're coming from always being clipped in, then you're just so used to it, and particularly like if you're doing any like cross country stuff. If you notice, though, those pedals are a little bigger, so you can actually clip out if you're in a situation where you don't want to be clipped in. And they're not like, like your regular 45 North platform pedals, but yeah.
I went for this one fat bike ride. Maybe it was just the conditions or something, but we were putting our feet down a lot. And, man, you put your foot down with a fat bike, with a SPD cleat, and then the snow gets in there, and then you're knocking them to try and get it out of here, and you can't clip back in. I'm like... So the other few fat bikes that I rode on, I used winter boots. My feet were never cold. They worked fine on a platform pedal, and I could clip in every time. It was perfect.
This also comes down to conditions. If I was to go out in this certain days where you're going to be walking more than you're going to be biking, you're riding through 6 inches of powder and they're not groomed, and you're just going out because you want to go play in the snow and you're probably going to get 3 miles in.
Boots.
I might wear boots with flat pedals, but normally if I'm going to go out fat biking, I'll put on my wolf hammers and My clipless pedals.
Okay, this brings us directly into clothing. What we wrote down basically is you wearing a bike kit or you wearing a ski kit?
Neither. Well, I wear
What did you wear at
layers.
Kingdom?
Bike kit.
Like what kind of pants? Like
45 North. Shout out to my friends at 45 North.
Sure.
Available for sponsorship deals.
You got the whole thing.
Their clothing is expensive.
Yeah.
It lasts, and it's designed for fat biking. So they make a bib tight, a lined bib tight, and they make for really cold weather. Like I can go down into single digits with just that on my legs. They do sell like a pant that goes over it that's also lined, and I wore those two in, -40, and my legs were fine.
45 North boots with toe warmers?
45 North boots, 45 North socks. I'm running the Wolfhammers, not the Wolfgar, I think, is the one that's even...
Wolfhammer's the one in the middle.
Yeah, so there's one that's even warmer than mine, but I haven't had the need for it. I have pretty good circulation.
Gloves inside pogies?
So the pogies I just got 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
For this trip to KT.
Game changer.
Yeah, I mean, you can...
I like them.
Yeah, I like them. I'm not sure I need them all the time. I have pretty good circulation. 45 North makes excellent gloves. Basically, you need 3 layers. You need a good synthetic long sleeve base layer. If it's really cold, you're going to want something with a little, that's going up here. You're going to need a nice lined jersey, and then you want a jacket, but not one that's crazy warm. Their fat biking jacket actually has zips, so you can, unzip it. And that's really all you need. If it gets really, really cold, I might throw on like a wool short sleeve base layer or vest.
I see. What about head? That's the hardest part.
Balaclava?
I don't like balaclavas, but I wear hats and with like a lined buff, right? So you want to make sure your hands are warm, your feet are warm,
your face
and your hat or your head and your
ears.
face.
What are you wearing, Clarky?
I do have a balaclava for the super cold day. I went out at -20. I did have a balaclava. You can't wear it over your mouth, else everything, it just kind of steams and freezes, so you wear it right below your mouth. And my nose was cold at that temperature, but yeah, I do have a base layer with a hood that's designed. It's a Pro Zoomy. I do wear Pro Zoomy tights. I do wear layers. It's key to layer. My outer layer is I have a pair of Enduras or 45 North pants that are just a loose fitting pant that I wear over top of a cycling
Pogies?
tight. No pogies, gloves. I don't like having my hands in things that
They take a little bit of getting used to because you don't have as much sort of freedom in there.
My hands don't get cold.
What are you running this year
for
your setup?
just gloves?
This is when you're supposed to say, "I'm snowmobiling this year, mother."
On my snowmobile, I wear gloves.
Edit that out. Actually, goggles or no goggles?
Ooh, goggles.
You're jumping ahead. You haven't gotten
Sorry.
me, bro. Slow down.
Sorry.
No
Goggles for sure.
Well,
No
you don't have
goggles.
fat bikes, so we're skipping over you.
I still fat bike.
Would you run goggles? All right,
I
Steffen,
did.
let's talk
I
about
wear a
cold.
bike
What are you gonna
helmet.
wear
I don't
for
wear a
cold?
snowboard helmet. Some people wear snowboard helmets.
So that's exactly where I was going to go. Like if it's cold, like if it's below, it's like 15 or below, I'm gonna bust out I'll still wear bike gear. I'm always wearing bike gear. I'll be, I'll wear like tights and then I'll wear a pant over it. I always wear a short sleeve base layer. Then I wear like a thermal, lined base layer, and then I'm wearing a jacket. And depending on how cold it is, I might even wear like a vest over that. But for my head, if it's cold, I'll wear my snowboard helmet.
snowboard helmet is key.
I'll wear goggles.
It's too hot.
For me,
You don't
I
need a
can.
snowboard helmet.
I pretty much run this
It
jacket.
depends
from
on
like
the temperature.
September. When do I start putting this jacket on? September. I run it straight through to the end of April. It's the best
So
jacket
like
ever.
basically like from the Josh to like Easter.
Straight through. And well, the thing about this jacket that I love is this hood is small. So I don't know what it's for, but this hood is really tight. So if I do this and then I do this, it fits perfectly under my bike helmet. It's crazy. I don't know how.
It looks like a mugshot.
It is designed to probably go under a helmet.
Wouldn't be my first one. Let's put it that way.
Separate
okay.
podcast.
The
Just on the helmet thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just using my regular mountain bike helmet.
Yeah.
Like I recommend having a separate mountain bike helmet. You get a little bit more coverage in
Yeah,
the
for
back.
sure.
You got the visor, and then I have. I think I have a pair of outdoor research goggles that,
Yeah.
like, if it's about 10 or below, you're gonna want goggles. if it gets too warm, you got to figure out where that point is for you. But they'll start to you'll get really hot if you wear them. Above.
Well, when it gets too warm, then that's when it's the fat bike.
I can't wear goggles.
If you're in negative 41, you'd be wearing goggles.
Well, I sweat. Even when I tried riding the snowboard helmet, and I sweat so bad, I get running down my face. And I'm a sweater from my head.
All right, Doug, tell us what you're riding.
Pretty much stock Rocky Mountain Blizzard. Again, I got the fork in the front. That's stock.
Bluto, is it called?
Bluto.
Yeah, I think it's a Bluto. Rock Shock. It's actually kind of worn off there. So the non-stock stuff on this, it does have a Fox transfer dropper post.
Okay.
Those are not the original wheels. Those are the DT Swiss with the star ratchet system. They've been bulletproof for 2 years.
That we started trying to get you like in June and finally had it ready by October, that one?
Yeah. Plan ahead. And then obviously those are not stock wheels, but everything else, I've replaced the chain, cassette. But yeah, that's it. That little fender thing, that's aftermarket. It's also a Rocky Mountain on with my kind of urban zip ties there.
Yeah, urban. The thing about fat bikes is like they are pretty basic. They look like simple front suspension mountain bikes. I mean, the one thing that is for me, I'm like, are they always small chain rings like that in the front? Teeny?
Well, you need a super low gear to be able to pedal that thing uphill. So I think I have a 24 on mine.
It's like a tractor, kind of.
Yeah, it's geared really low.
You're never going over 25 miles an hour on your fat bike.
And I mean, it's like leg day when you're trying to go up little hills.
Yeah.
Right? You are really putting a lot of torque on it to try and get
And that's why
you're going to want a low gear.
That's why he had trouble with his rear free hub, because the hub is so wide and you have so low of a gear and you have so much torque that's going into that hub.
And it's like off the center, so you're blowing the bearing out or something?
Well, it's
twisting.
Everything's twisting.
Yeah, I see.
And it just ends up twisting that enough to make the tolerances a little off, and then you start knurling up. There's three little pawls in there, and they just blow apart. And
I see.
That's why the DT star ratchet system
is better.
Works much better.
What's up with the little red blinky light on there? Who's that for?
So he doesn't get run over by cars.
No one's gonna see you out there.
I do. So I'm not a big rider at night. Like I won't ride on the road at night.
Yeah.
Don't really ride a lot of gravel at night. I know Jaryn and I differ on that.
I like the
but
nighttime.
I do ride at night in the winter on my fat bike. I'll go out a couple nights during the week, just cruise around. So sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of a light so you don't completely scare someone. So I'm running, helmet light, handlebar light, like 2,000 lumens combined.
Yeah, if it was me, I would. What would I want on that? I do like the dropper seat post that Steffen runs on all his bikes, although they do cost a fortune.
It's not the same.
No, that's a Fox transfer.
Fox transfer.
That's a great post.
No, I like the electronic one that you run.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That dropper post is for peasants.
I wonder how the electronic one, if the
hold on,
weather,
how much have I spent at your bike shop?
Doug's feeding us all pretty much.
I do have a Everb.
Can I get a special version of this edited with certain things so my wife doesn't see it?
Yeah,
Sure. I do have an Everb on my fat bike, and I do say the battery life does not last as long in the cold as it does in the warm.
Wait, what's the
Who
Everb?
cares? The electronic reverb. It's called Everb for electric.
I didn't charge mine the last time I went riding, and it was pretty disappointing. Halfway through my ride, my dropper didn't work.
Okay, see this right
And
here?
I don't have a spare battery in my...
Keep spare battery in my pocket all the time.
Didn't I just do a review on this seat post?
Yeah, no.
It's called the Everb?
No. No. You're confused. I do have an electric dropper on my gravel bike, but that you have to add another shorter word, which is explore. The explore on the gravel bike that's when you get the suspension.
Tomato.
The Everb is just the electronic dropper from RockShox.
This is not a RockShox.
The only beauty of the Everb is there's no cable. Easy to put on and off.
Well, that's the bike. That's the podcast. Doug, thanks for coming on. I'm gonna round us out here, which is I'm gonna say. First things first, we need more people to come on the podcast so we can roast their bikes and talk about bicycles. So if you know somebody who's interested, let us know. Send us an email. Reach out to us in the comments. We'd love to have you on, whoever you are, wherever you are. Beyond that, this is the Shop Rags podcast brought to you by Berkshire Bike Board. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. It helps us greatly. And like I always say, round up for distance, round down for time. Thanks for watching.